Yeah, unlike me, he's within driving distance.
The N-word. Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Say the Discord. Today we have a serious Saturday. We're going to be talking about the Constitution. And, well, I don't know. What does that mean? What is the Constitution? What's included in the Constitution? How was it created? Who wrote it?
We will discuss these things.
Maybe.
For any, for anyone that happens to, I know there's nobody really watching this at the moment, but for anybody that might watch this on repeat, this is what we like to call a Serious Saturday. It is a special edition of the show that does not follow the usual format.
Yes. On Serious Saturdays, we are also willing to talk more about politics and, like, a little bit more deeply.
Yeah. Any subjects that we would normally avoid in the standard show are free to be explored here.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least, if not freer.
Yeah. Because, like, with some topics, especially the one that we have today, the United States Constitution, it's inevitable that things are going to get a bit political. Because the Constitution is probably one of the most highly politicized documents in the history of humanity.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
It's wild. The amount of arguments I've seen over a comma is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, you can go into a bunch of stuff with plenty of scholars, and you'll talk to 12 scholars and have 13 opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Penn and Teller
at a minimum.
Penn and Teller did an entire show.
Yeah.
For their series bullshit.
The fact that constitutional scholar is a legitimate profession, yeah, it gets pretty serious.
Yeah, the fact that people have pored over the writings of the people that wrote the Constitution to fully grasp what they meant for mostly the Bill of Rights. But,
yeah.
Is insane.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that if you're outside of the United States, there's a lot of misunderstanding or just outright ignorance as to the letter, wording, and intention of the United States Constitution. And unfortunately, for a lot of Americans these days, they don't realize what's in this document that's kind of the foundation for the entire law structure of this country.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know it by heart, and I'm probably the one of us who has the most knowledge on this document. I have multiple pamphlets that contain the entire Constitution. I have a book. In fact, why don't we go here? And I have this book right here, The U.S. Constitution and Other Key American Writings, which contains the Mayflower Compact, Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, from the speech, or I forget what exactly it is. Let me open up the book and just double check what that is.
Yeah, you have the
Page
book.
2. Yeah, I'm holding it.
By the way,
Patrick
you should probably
Henry's...
change the title of the stream
yeah.
to like.
Yeah, I'll change. We can change the title. What you change the title to something more reasonable.
Hmm.
But it's got that speech. It's got the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, which, if you're a sovereign citizen, you think supersedes the Constitution, but the Constitution replaced the Articles of Confederation.
Yeah.
Treaty of Paris, the Virginia Plan, the Northwestern Ordinance, Constitution, and that's just up to 1787. It doesn't contain every single amendment. It contains the Bill of Rights. It contains the 13th Amendment. It contains the 16th Amendment. It contains the 19th Amendment. Which, all good stuff, but it's got everything to Barack Obama's announcement of the death of Osama bin Laden. That is the last document in this book, and it does a decent job of getting what it can. I suggest getting this or a similar book, especially looking at the Federalist Papers. Those help you understand a lot of the reasons behind the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, why things were worded the way they were.
I mean, at least you have your priorities in order, Bert.
Yeah, yeah. Today's going to be more of an educational stream.
Yeah, you know, like,
this
is probably going to be a bit more dry than our usual fare, but I'm sure Jables will find a way to fuck that up in some way.
Oh, that's my job.
Nonetheless, I will, I think in the description of this episode, I am going to include a link to this book in particular. That way
we
guys
all forgot to talk about getting Bar in here.
I talked to Bar. He said he'd be able to make it, but he hasn't responded yet, so hopefully he'll hop in at some point.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because I definitely would like to have him on for this discussion. Considering his genuine interest in, you know, the workings of this country.
Well, he
loves America more than a lot of other Americans.
Not a false statement.
Yeah. Well, I think like Barr understands, you know, like the importance of what America is supposed to represent and the need to protect that better than a lot of people.
Well, and a lot of that comes from, like, his parents went through, like, a massive rebellion in the country and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, you know, like, obviously, the island he's on is a territory of Portugal, but still, you know, they had the longest standing fascist regime in the history of Europe. In the history of the world, actually.
And then when the communists tried to take over, it wasn't any better.
No. It's like, you all can go shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down.
Well, unfortunately, he's not on right now, but we can always start with the Constitution. This is going to be dry. I will pull up the actual Constitution, and I'll try and keep... I'm going to read from the book, but I will try and keep track of where I am on here. Alright.
Yeah.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Preamble. Actually, interesting story. If you want to sit down and just go straight through without anyone talking over it, there are recordings on YouTube of people reading the Constitution. It's dry as hell, but I try and do it at least once a year.
It is, yeah. It's dry, but it's pretty specific. Like they were trying to close loopholes.
Oh yeah, and the further we get into this, I hope it becomes clear just the frankly impressive amount of foresight that the founding fathers had when creating this.
Yeah.
Article 1, this is also separated into what? 4 articles, 5, 6, 7 articles in total, but I think the 7th article is just the signatures. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I think, that's the ratification.
Yeah. But it's in articles and sections. I will read the article and what section as we're going. So, like they said, it may be a bit dry. But that's why we're doing it on a serious Saturday, not on a fucking Friday.
Yeah.
All legislative... Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Now, in reality, the whole reason for that was because you had a split argument in terms of representation. Some of the states wanted representation based on population. Some states wanted representation based on 2 representatives per state. The reason being, the smaller states were benefited by having 2 representatives per state, whereas the larger states were benefited by having representation
Population
based on population.
Yeah.
And so, in response to this, the founding fathers came up with a compromise.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we'll have both. Like, we'll have the based on population representation and the 2 representation. But the way we're going to balance it is we're going to make the population-based representation the lower house. And this was supposed to be a balance to make sure that, like, the more populous states couldn't just push everything they wanted. They would have to get it through the Senate first.
Also, we're gonna see how long, how much we can get through today. I'm hoping to at least get through the Constitution itself. We might just end it at the end of the Constitution. Or we might end it partway through, don't know for sure.
Yeah, because we could do an entire episode just on the Bill of Rights.
Yeah. Out of... we're on page 36 of this book for the Constitution, and the Constitution goes to page 48, but 47 is where the text, the signatures start.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's that. Anyway, we may split this up. We'll see exactly. We thought about doing just the Bill of Rights, but if you don't have the basis of the Constitution itself, the Bill of Rights makes less sense. Alright, Section 2. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year, so every 2 years, by the people of the several states. And the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. Now, you're going to notice a lot of he in here because women weren't elected to representation at the time. That's something that's changed. It's how it's written because that's how they thought of things.
Yeah,
And
women, am I right?
we're going to read it like that because that's how it's written. I don't want to hear shit. Also, did you know that you could be a federal House representative for your state at the age of 25?
Yeah. Providing that you had also been a citizen of the United States at least for 7 years, and as the last part states, that you actually live in the state that you are going to be representing.
Yeah, Jables for Washington Representative 2024.
You are old enough to run.
You're gonna do that.
Huh? Oh, I've already tried to run for like city council and shit.
Oh god, could you imagine if this Discord tried to put together a campaign for you?
Jables, he only says the N-word in context.
You know, the funny part is that would probably get more votes than you'd think.
Yeah, I know.
This is like,
That's why I don't do it, because I don't want that fucking headache of the work.
vote
You would
Jables.
get-
He's responsible sometimes.
You would get a lot more votes because under the justification of, well, at least he's honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
You
That's
wouldn't
something
win, but you'd get
sadly
more votes
lacking.
than you'd think.
I'd have to drag my buddy Ricky in just to like defend me using the N-word.
Which would make it even funnier.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be me running for office is the funniest fucking thing I can think of doing. Don't expect to win. but I'm scared I might win because of the honesty. Oh. Yeah.
Alright, continuing on. Representatives and direct taxes shall be appointed or apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons. Keep in mind that this was that slavery did exist during this time, so that's why they specified free peoples.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, where was I? Including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. That 3/5 compromise is, again, based on slavery. It's... a lot of this came down to, there were people who wanted to keep their slaves in the founding fathers and those who wanted to free their slaves, and then there was the argument of, well, we want our slaves to count towards our population, but we don't want them to have any sort of representation of their own. We don't want them to be able to vote or have any sort of say. We just want their bodies to count towards our representatives.
Yeah. To give states more political leaning over others.
Yeah, and it's known as the 3/5 compromise, and so it was it was still controversial even at that time.
Yeah. So if you think this sounds horrible and stupid, just remember, even then it was controversial.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, these things need to be viewed through a lens of that time, not a modern lens. I have such a problem with presentism, is what it's called nowadays. where we view everything in the past through the lens of our current times, and it's they're doing their best. Like, come on.
It's a stupid point of view because it's the same concept as, well, let me think about this real quick. Let me think of a good example.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't George Washington call the England and complain to them about what was going on instead of rebelling? First off, no electricity. Second off, phone didn't exist because that's based on electricity. It's just, I'm sure I could think of a better example, but I'm trying to come up with one off the top of my head. I'll think of one later, I guarantee it.
It's just like,
no, your
communication.
example just, I was trying to think of an example, and your example just fucked up my whole thought process.
Like, communication, obviously, you know, like, under the best case scenario, like, you had weeks between replies. Because anything that's going back to... Well, yeah, but, like, anything that's going back to the UK, like, you're taking a fucking boat powered by wind.
Yeah.
You know, like,
so
assuming they even get there and they don't just fucking disappear, which happened a hell of a lot.
A lot more than you would think.
Yeah, if you think UPS or FedEx has a shitty... Yeah, sometimes it was a 1-year journey. But,
yeah, I wouldn't say 1-year journey at best, but...
Sometimes it was a 1-year journey, but those were usually round trip journeys. And that wasn't because it would take 6 months, they'd respond, and then another 6 months. It'd be like, it took 2-3 months. They'd take their time to go through and word the response properly, and then it'd come back and it'd take its time to get sorted out and what needs to go where. And that's just port to port. You gotta also take into account, what if they're on one of the more inland villages or towns?
Yeah.
Well, that first has to get to port, then it has to go across the ocean, get responded to, go back across the ocean, probably on a completely different ship.
And again, you know,
then
also
it has to be
assuming
taken to the Pony Express, and then,
assuming that your ship even arrives, and as I said, just doesn't disappear in the Atlantic, which happened a lot.
Which is actually the cause of a lot of military confusion from time to time. It's one of the reasons you'll find, even in the World Wars, you'll have stories of the war is officially over, but you've still got fighting between the two forces for months later.
Yeah, probably the worst. I think it was either Iwo Jima or Okinawa, where there were still Japanese soldiers in like underground tunnels and stuff, like 10 years after the war had ended, that hadn't realized that Japan had surrendered. Because no one ever told them.
There was one person who it was decades later.
Yeah. Like, they had a thing about, like, the very last Japanese soldier to surrender. Because, again, like, for a lot of these guys, after communications broke down, they didn't know. And no one told them.
Yeah, because nobody knew where to find them. Because they were pretty good at being a soldier. Let's be honest. That person was willing and ready and just holding down his spot.
I mean, I feel like I'd feel kind of fucking insulted if I was that dude personally. It's like, the fuck do you mean we surrendered 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Bullshit! Y'all are a bunch of pussies.
Back to this, because we're getting definitely off topic.
Yeah.
The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall direct by law. Or as they shall by law. Now, what they're talking about is what we've come to know as the census. Every 10 years, you gotta fill out your census form, send it in, and that's how they come up with the representative numbers for all the states. That's why California recently lost representatives in the House.
I had to do, so many people left California.
It's basically to give, the federal government a vague approximation, like a pretty close approximation of what the current population is for each state.
Yeah, I had to fill out the census for the first time in my life.
And not just population, but also demographics.
I had to fill out the census for the first time in my life this last year, and I was like, what's stopping me from lying? Who's gonna check?
I identify as a potato.
Huh?
I identify
Supposedly
as
they
a
actually
potato.
have people who come out to check that stuff.
Well, yeah, no, I live in a pretty heavy Hispanic neighborhood. I saw some census people walking around, checking in on some of the apartments around. And that's it. I was like, ooh, shit. But it's like, the census is ridiculous for me. It's like, yes, I live alone. And then they're like, are you sure you live alone? Yes. Are you double sure you live alone? Yep.
It's like, what? Do you want me to count the mice?
I don't even have mice. I don't even have cockroaches.
It's like, hold on. Let me go find that fucking pigeon that landed on my windowsill a couple days ago.
A moth snuck in the other day, but that's about it. Like,
All right, continuing on. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative, and until such enumeration shall be made, this part they go over just how many, until the update is made, how many representatives belong to each state. I'm gonna skip over that because it's no longer valid. Or even matters.
Yeah, because after a certain point, population started growing to a point it was like,
When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall choose their speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. It's an interesting way of writing it. I actually, I've read this multiple times. I've never questioned choose. Now I'm wondering what it is. What it actually means.
I also love how we have the dyslexic one reading it.
It's a verb used with or without object. An archaic spelling of choose. Okay.
Seriously, like, he has access to it. It's like, I could read it, but I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, I've got it right here. I'm reading it. I think I'm doing an acceptable job. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's alright.
Remind me to shift this once we get to Section 6. Alright, Section 3. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislator thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and of the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise, during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. So, basically, this was the establishment of the three election staggering for the Senate. This is why you've got 1/3 of senators elected every 2 years.
Yeah. It was originally intended to, like, get a steady rotation of people in and out of the Senate chamber.
Without losing the knowledge base. The House of Representatives is replaced every 2 years. Or not replaced, but re-elected. The election is held every 2 years. So, in theory, you could completely replace everyone in the House every 2 years. They didn't want that volatility in the Senate, so they adjusted that one so every 2 years only 1/3 was elected. You had 2/3 continuity, election to election.
They wanted it to be a bit more stable, but they also wanted to avoid it stagnating.
Yeah.
Well, they also wanted to avoid the problems that we see today with, like, the presidential election, where it's like, gotta win all the seats. Well, actually, never mind. They wanted to avoid what we are currently doing today, where it's like, it's gonna be a blue wave, it's gonna be a red wave, that sort of shit.
It was not the intention of the founding fathers for people to just perpetually be senators. That's how things have turned out, unfortunately, but...
Yeah.
Well, part of this was, and we'll get to this, actually, I will get... that part of the thing is, that is something that we will touch on in a minute here, because it does get covered. I will go ahead and keep reading, and when we get there, I'll talk about this. Anyway, no person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years, and been 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state for which he shall be chosen. The Vice President of the United...
I can run for Senate!
Yeah, I can run for Senate too. I'm a year away from running for President, but we'll get to that. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. So, unless you've got a perfect... Given that every state has 2 senators, there is always an even number of state reps. It is absolutely possible for you to have a direct 50-50 split in the Senate and need
in which
a
case the vice
vote.
president needs to be the tiebreaker.
Yep. That is the only reason and the only time the vice president will ever have a vote in the Senate.
And that's just specifically to prevent deadlock.
Yep. The Senate shall choose their other officers and also a president pro tempore in the absence of the vice president, or when he shall exercise the office of president in the United States. So, if vice president moves up to president and is exercising president powers, it's They have to come up with some other option.
Yeah, if it's a 50-50, they still need the tiebreaker vote. So
Yeah, we're in the establishment of checks and balances right now.
yeah,
The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for the purpose, they shall be on oath of affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Which, nowadays, we say you need a 2/3 majority, but it does state here that it's only of those present.
mm-hmm.
Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office or honor, trust or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, and judgment, and punishment according to the law. I guess we didn't go over this part.
And I will make a brief note about what you said about the those who are present. That was meant specifically to prevent instances of trials not being able to go forward by senators just abstaining from showing up.
It does present an issue having to do with, oh, what if they just last minute hold the vote? Well, that's where a lot of the procedural stuff comes in.
Yep, I was just making that point real quick. Continue.
Yeah. Well, we're on to Section 4. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof. But the Congress may, at any time by law, make or alter such regulations, except as to the place of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least one in every year, and such meetings, the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meetings shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law be appointed a different day. Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications.
Hold on. First Monday in December. That's I guess it's the end of the year. I don't know. Seems like a weird day.
It's the minimum.
Yeah.
And back then it made sense because there was there was the probability of that's around the time where you're most likely to be free to actually travel because it's winter, you're not dealing with your crops, you're not dealing with sowing, harvesting, planting, anything like that.
Yeah.
All the major stuff has been done for the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may be hard to travel, but you have the time to travel. And you're arriving there by the first Monday of December. So you may have dealt with snow, but you'll have traveled through the snow. You'll have thought this through.
Yeah, you're coming in on the Saturday, but you're there for the Monday.
Yeah. All right, Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business, but a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members, in such manner, and under the penalties as each house may provide. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, except such parts as may, in their judgment, require secrecy, and the yeas and nays of the members of either house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Nowadays, that journal bit is for the votes is kind of pointless, because literally every vote is tracked. It don't matter if it goes in the journal or not. It's fucking tracked.
Yeah. Also, little tip for US people that vote. Don't just listen to what candidates say. Look up their voting record and see if you agree with that.
I mean, that's generally true, period.
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is that not a lot of American voters actually bothered to go with that step.
Yeah.
What a politician tells you in a campaign is one thing. What they've actually done with policy while they've been in is what you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's a lot of times they'll be like, "Oh, I like what this candidate's saying," and then I'll go to the voting record and I'll be like, "They've done the exact opposite of what they've been saying."
It's like, you liar! You don't believe that at all.
But that also has issues with like dog earring and stuff like that.
Like AOC. You were the chosen one!
Yeah. And it's like,
Ah, man, her getting called out for supporting the war effort after being so anti-war was just fucking priceless.
it's one of the reasons why I was pro-Trump at the beginning was because he was anti-war. It's like, cool. Let's stop doing this war shit. I like that. But, shit happens. I didn't vote for Trump, by the way. Let's clear that up real quick.
Whether or not you did is
you
kind
guys.
of irrelevant, though. You just praised Trump, that the woke mob's coming for us.
Yeah, you're already fucked.
It's like the discussion.
Then
we had
again,
the
if
other
you
night.
badmouth
people only get in trouble because they're hypocritical. I'm not gonna get in trouble for shit.
Well, it's kind of like that Republican elector who has been proven to be a fucking liar.
Yeah, Santos. Yeah.
Anyway, continuing on.
I'm Jew-ish.
Neither house during the session of Congress shall, without the consent of the other, adjourn for more than 3 days, nor to any other place than that in which the two houses shall be sitting. You know what? I don't think it's actually in here how the I could be wrong, maybe it's later. I will bring this up now though. So, one interesting thing is that originally the senators were selected by the state. They were not elected. They were selected. Which brought up concerns of nepotism and bribery to get yourself a Senate seat. So it got switched over to election. And that's had its own issues. Alright, moving on to section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their service, but to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance of the session of their respective houses, and, in going to and returning from the same. And for any speech or debate in the House, they shall not be questioned in any other place. So, what that's saying is they can literally speed to get to Congress, and they can't be arrested for it. They can literally have murdered someone, go into a session of Congress, and the cops have to wait for the session to be over before they arrest them.
Yeah, you're still getting arrested. It's just like it's on a timer now.
Yeah. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his constituency in office. If you're in the Senate, you're in the Senate. You can't become also the foreign affairs minister or this or that. If you're in the House, same thing.
No mixing jobs. Anal.
Anal.
Sorry,
Anal.
shut up.
We're talking about the Constitution, Biotech Babe. We're going through the boring stuff. It doesn't get really interesting till the Bill of Rights, but well, like we said at the start of this, the foundation has to be there.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm on the show and I'm sitting here.
you have to understand. You have to understand the structure of the lawmaking process before we can get into the laws themselves.
Yes. For once in the entire history of the show, we're being educational.
All right. So we're
This
on
is
Section
important.
7 of Article 1 right now. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it become a law, be presented to the President of the United States. If he approves, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it, with his objections to the House in which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large on their journal, and proceed to reconsider it. After such a reconsideration, if after such a reconsideration 2/3 of that House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent, together with the objections, to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become law.
Biotech Babe brought up a fun
Yeah, I
fact.
saw that.
The Constitution is based on a lot of our government is based on the Native American structures.
Based on natives,
the Northeast
based on
Native Americans.
based on the European cultures as well. It takes what it thought was the best of these and put it all together.
Yeah. Because you have to keep in mind that a lot of the founding fathers were part of what is known as the Enlightenment era.
Yeah. I like to call it the critical era. Where it's like, take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that. Fuck that.
But in all such cases, the votes of both houses shall be determined by the yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each house respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress, by their adjournment, prevent its return, in which case it shall not be law. Now, the wording of that is weird, Because you could take that to mean, oh, if you just happen to adjourn and the president does not sign it within 10 days or and decides to return it but can't, well, it can't be law anymore. It's no longer valid as law. Technically true, but you could also make the statement that then it's treated as Sundays. It gets returned at the next opportunity. That's one of the lines that confuses me the most about the Constitution. It's just how it's written.
Yeah. I'd have to look into some extra writings.
Well, Federalist Papers. We will not go over those today. We could go over them at some point, but that's... I still haven't read through them.
I still think it's funny.
Not fully.
Anti-politics as we are during the main show. Yeah, we should just do a whole series on the founding of the country.
I don't hate that idea. It won't get many views, but I don't hate the idea.
No.
I like for the information to be out there and available. That's the...
Yeah.
And, like, to preface, like, if it hasn't been said already, we are not experts on this subject material in any way whatsoever.
No, I don't know how to play football, but I root for the Seahawks.
Fuck the Seahawks.
I am the most knowledgeable on this subject of the three of us, and I can't even claim to be an expert.
Yeah.
We're just trying to give you a very basic understanding from people that have a basic understanding.
Yeah, when it comes to the Bill of Rights, I'm a lot more knowledgeable.
Same.
But
a lot more knowledgeable on that. But part of the reason I'm more knowledgeable is because I have an understanding of this document.
Yeah.
Hi, Bubba.
Fun fact, Rimshee was anti-gun before he joined the military.
We could go over that once we get to the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Which, we said that the Bill of Rights could be an episode by itself. The Second Amendment could be an episode by itself.
The Second Amendment could be 2 episodes by itself.
Just because of all of the blatant lies and deliberate misunderstandings surrounding that one particular amendment to the Constitution.
Maybe we go through
on the comma in the Second Amendment.
Maybe, yeah, we could. That's very true. Maybe what we do is we go through the Bill of Rights, and we talk briefly about the Second Amendment, but we dedicate an entire show to it.
Yeah, it's just like put a pin in that. We'll come back to it later in detail.
Yeah.
Continuing on. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him, or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed by the case of a bill. Or prescribed in the case. Cool! Nice, biotech. Free cheesecake is awesome.
Yay! I want
Section
cheesecake.
8.
With a graham cracker crust?
Obviously. Unless it's a chocolate cheesecake, and then chocolate sandwich cookie crust is A-okay.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta base it on what kind of cheesecake it is. Some stuff goes better than others. Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense of general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on the credit of the United States, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among several states, and with the Indian tribes, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures, to provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States, to establish post offices and post roads, to promote and promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries, patents, and copyrights, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, and offenses against the law of nations, to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to the use shall be for a longer term than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions, to provide for ongoing armies and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the state respectively the appointment of the officers and authorities of training and militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. I'm going to pause there for a moment because this is a lot.
Real quick, Rimshee, could you send me a link to the site?
Yeah, it's just archives.gov.
Okay. I thought
so.
Here's the Constitution.
God.
And I'm actually going to include this in the description. So we're going over a lot of the stuff that they have the right to do, such as dealing with money, dealing with military, post offices, and post roads. Post roads, basically just roads that the Postal Service uses. Continuing on, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may, by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. Section 8 is long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just let me know if you feel like you need a break at any point. I can take over reading.
Yeah, I'm down to take over reading too. Like, I have it up right now.
We'll go. I'll finish Article 1, and then one of you can take over for Article 2.
There's so much left of Article 1.
No, there's not. There's only 2 sections left of Article 1.
No, 3, because there's 8, 9, and 10.
I just read 8.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
8 was a very wordy section, but we got through it.
It was, for all intents and purposes, that Section 8 is a run-on sentence. It's grammatically correct, but it is, for all intents and purposes, a run-on goddamn sentence.
A lot of semicolons.
Mm-hmm. Section 9. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person, which was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they said that any... did we all get something about trial by jury, $20? Oh no, I think that's in the Bill of Rights.
Oh, Dean is making blueberry pancakes.
God damn.
The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when, in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. No capitalization or other direct tax shall be laid unless proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from the states. No preference shall be given to any regulation or commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obligated to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without consent of the Congress, except of any president in emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever, from any king, prince, or foreign state. Basically, bribery is illegal. In a much more wordy way.
Don't do that. No do bribery.
And that includes... You can be given a title of nobility by some other country, but it's not going to matter at all in the United States. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, this stream is sponsored by nobletitles.org or whatever the fuck that website is. Which isn't real, it's all a scam, but, you know, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
It's like
such a
buying a
complicated
scar.
subject.
Well, yeah, it's like it's essentially a parody gift, but they never marketed it as a parody gift, and that's why they're in trouble now.
Yeah.
They didn't explicitly advertise it.
Of course, the
That's
same
the issue.
motherfucker that set up established titles also set up Deal Dash. So, how reputable did you think they were going to be?
Yeah.
Alright, I've got one more section in Article 1, so...
Whatever,
I'll keep
I'm
going.
more Dr. Reverend Jables Boobly, so...
No state...
Lord Dr. Reverend.
So, here we are at Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except when may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duties of tonnage, keep troops, or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state, or without a foreign power, or with a foreign power, or engage in war, unless actually invaded, or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. Basically, states, watch your shit. This is what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, pretty debatable what they're doing, but
What do you mean?
ow.
Are you talking today or back then?
I'm talking today.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's seems pretty laid out, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, you have to actually
kind of
get
suspect.
shit. You actually got to get shit dealt with.
Yeah. Well, Philadelphia bombed an entire city block. So.
Anyway, we're on to Article 2 now. Who wants to take this?
I can do it, or if Jables wants to do it, in which case I'll go and make a sandwich. But
Well, if you want to make a sandwich, I'll do it.
all right, I'll go and make a sandwich then.
Give me a second. I just need to grab a cup of water.
Yeah, having some tea with me really helped.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of talky talk.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I gotta make sure. Gotta make sure they're going.
And I must say, under the circumstances, you did surprisingly well, backwards boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, considering I'm the
You've overcome your dyslexia.
Like I said, considering I'm potentially one of the most, what's the right term? Considering I'm one of the, I am the most knowledgeable on this subject out of the three of us, I would hope so.
All right.
Yeah. Good job. You did it.
I got a cigarette. Got a cup of water.
Save the cigarette for after. You're probably going to need it.
I have more. All right. Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America, who shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Each state shall appoint, in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct, a number of electors, equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator, representative, or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed and elected. Hey, Red, resubscribed for 21 months. Thanks, Red.
Nice.
We're going
Red,
over
we're
the
being
U.S.
good
Constitution,
citizens.
Red.
That's what we're up to.
Yeah.
We're learning about our country and educating others about our country.
To the best of our...
Very limited abilities.
Yeah, I was gonna say, admittedly limited. Because it's something that
it's something that we end up hinting at a lot, so we figured we'd just do a whole series on it.
Yeah.
Well, it started out being, we'll do an episode on the Bill of Rights, and then it became, well, we can't really do that without at least laying the foundation of the Constitution. Which turned into, well, I mean,
Fuck
if we
it.
did
Let's
that,
talk about
I know
the Constitution.
yeah. Which turned into, well, I can clearly see that hey, Bar, we
Hey,
have
gentlemen.
issues with...
Hey, he's here.
We could easily do an entire
I was
episode
DMing you.
on the Second Amendment.
Probably too.
No, we could do an entire episode on a comma in the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that's...
Oh my god, not that thing again. Jesus Christ.
Not yet. We're only on Article 2 of the Constitution. So
Yeah, we just started.
You just started. Okay.
We covered the
no, we started
legislative part. Now we're
we
moving into
start-
the executive branch.
We started an hour ago.
yeah.
Oh, amazing. Hi, everyone.
Hey Bart.
Hello, Bar.
Allahu Akbar.
Oh, this is how I end up on the black side. Thank you, asshole. Simple
You're
as
already
that.
on the fucking black side. The fuck are you talking about?
If you're not on a list, you're not living life.
Oh, I'm on several lists, buddy.
Yeah, me too. I'm pretty sure all of us are.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all in the. Never mind.
Yeah, if you've seen my fucking porn history.
No. No.
No. Careful with
Keep
that.
eating your sandwich. Jables, keep reading.
I'm
Okay.
making my sandwich.
Well, I lost my place. Plus, Rimshee, I thought you'd like to say something about those 2 paragraphs. But okay.
Sorry, Bar popped in, so I got distracted.
Yeah.
The first two?
Understandable.
He is sexy. Anyways. Going on. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom at least one shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each. It sounds like ranked choice voting. Which list they shall sign and verify and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the president. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, and if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose. Oh, wow. I see why that word fucked you up earlier, Rimshee. It just looks weird. I've never seen that word before
Choose?
outside of this document. Yeah.
They shall choose?
Yeah, CHUSE.
Yeah, it's
by
an
ballot,
old
one
version
of them
of
for
choose.
president, and if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the said house shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, goddamn, the votes shall be taken
Keep it
by
together,
state.
man.
The representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice in every case. After the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain 2 or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. Isn't that setting up the whole? So the system used to be second place for president became vice president.
Yeah.
Yeah, Red. That word showed up like 5 times in succession.
Alright, so let me go open the Twitch chat.
Yeah. By the way, that's something I want to go back to. Second place as vice president. I think it would cure a lot of division.
Oh my god, could you imagine that?
Trump and Hillary in office.
Yeah, no. No, she would resign first day.
That's fine. But still.
That or Donnie would have some kind of tragic accident.
Mm. Plus,
Alright.
you know, if they try that today, they'll be trying to 25th each other
Yeah.
at the very first opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Continuing on. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen or citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of the Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States.
Can you imagine if somebody ever actually got elected at the minimum age for president?
Well, that was a thing back in the day, but today,
Yeah.
yeah, that's practically
that's
impossible.
That's kind of funny because one of the misconceptions about the American founding fathers is just a bunch of old white dudes kind of ran the country when a lot of these people were very young when America was founded.
Yeah, they were in
Yeah,
their
like
30s.
Washington was one of the older ones.
And he was what, in his 40s?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were like a bunch of young dudes with this crazy idea in their heads. Oh, we're just gonna govern ourselves. Fuck this royalty thing.
Yeah, it's like the powdered wig thing was just a fashion thing at the time.
Also, a lot of these portraits are painted later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Years and years later. I mean,
Yeah.
like the Constitution itself, like, yeah, you know, like the country was founded in 1776, but the Constitution itself was not ratified until March 4th of 1789.
Yeah. Yeah, this is all written by a bunch of 32-year-olds. That were like, let's go fucking buck wild.
The average, I believe I read, and you might correct me, like the average age of the people who signed the Bill of Rights was in the mid-20s. Because there were some dudes like as young as 19
Yeah.
in there. That's insane by today's political standards. But again, this myth was created. I mean, probably.
Well, I mean, like,
imagine,
as we say, like, they were a bunch of young, fairly young, or like, you know, in their prime dudes who were trying something that had never been attempted before.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's go wild. We're across an ocean. Why not?
Yeah.
Oh wow, we've jumped up to 8 people watching. Hopefully 8 people will learn about the Constitution.
Oh my god.
I just like that the information's out there, man.
That or the new joinees will realize quickly they've made a massive mistake.
Rimshee being replaced by a Midwestern man.
Hey, I'm a Midwestern man.
Another one.
Just
Continuing
Let's
on.
exit out. Yeah. Sorry. Go on, Jables.
In case of the removal of the president from office or of his death, resignation or inability to discharge the powers and duties of said office, the same shall devolve on the vice president, and the Congress may by law provide for the case of removal, death, resignation, or inability, both of the president and vice president, declaring what officer shall then act as president, and such officer shall act accordingly until the disability be removed, or a president shall be elected. The president shall, at stated times, receive for his services a compensation which shall neither be increased nor diminished during period for which he shall have been elected, and he shall not receive within that period any other emolument. I don't know what that word is.
It's kind of like payment or benefits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an over-encompassing benefits and income kind of word.
Yeah. It's just
Within that period,
you're not getting shit. You're not getting any extra shit while you're in the office.
yeah.
Wow, it's almost like they kind of saw things coming. Never mind, sorry.
It's like you have your salary. That's it.
We touched on that earlier. Should not receive within that period any other emolument from the United States or any of them. What do they mean by them? Sorry, dabbing in a little joke. Before he enter on the execution of his office, he shall take on the following oath or affirmation. I do so solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That is a frickin' long section 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
The sections just get shorter as this article goes on.
Yep.
It's like they were going, Jesus Christ, man, just get on with it.
Yeah.
It's like they covered so much in the legislative branch section. It's like, okay, what else is there now?
No, it was, let's be really specific about this.
It's like, how could this go wrong? Looking around the room.
All right. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective office. And he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Huh.
Otherwise, a president could potentially pardon himself.
Yeah, tricky day.
Also, notice the part that says Commander-in-Chief, like the supreme authority over military matters.
Yes.
Yes, which means in the hierarchy, this means that, there's nobody to bestow additional authority or powers or permissions over upsetting president.
Yeah.
So it's just something that has come up a lot lately. Like, as a foreigner, I think it's weird that even I have grasped this aspect of who the president answers or doesn't answer to. And a lot of native citizens still don't understand. Like, you don't answer to some piss-ass bureaucrat in some office if you're the leader of the fucking free world.
Yeah, we're getting into that.
Yeah.
He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators concur, and he shall nominate, and by and with the advice of and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided for, and which shall be established by law. But the Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as they think proper in the President alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of departments. The President shall have power to fill up all vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions which shall expire at the end of their next session. Section 3. He shall from time to time give to the Congress information of the state of the Union and recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them, and in case of disagreement between them with respect to the time of adjournment, he may adjourn them to such time as he shall think proper. He shall receive ambassadors and other public ministers. He shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed, and shall commission all the officers of the United States. Section 4. The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. Shout out to Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah. I mean, so is it a high crime or
Slick Willie?
yeah, like is it a high crime or a misdemeanor to get a blowing the White House?
Neither. It's about lying to Congress.
Yeah. Perjury.
Not giving them her number.
Yeah, it was perjury. Not Define the word is. Alright. Article 3, you want to take this, sir?
Yeah, I need to let my sandwich cool for a moment.
Or do we want the voice of Bar to take this one?
No, I got it. I mean, I might let him take over halfway through so I can eat, but
We'll see.
anyway.
By the way, Bar, the link to the website that we're on is in the...
Oh, I know. I'm watching the stream. The quality is good enough. I could read off of it.
Yeah, but
Just
it's
forgot one.
yeah, but if you want to pull up the site, it's in the live show chat.
Yeah, this will be a quick one, so I can just read this in the new.
Open chat. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'll open up anyway, just in case. Okay. So where are we? Just to confirm,
Article
Article 3.
Article 3.
Yeah, you're going to be reading Article 4 as soon as I'm done with this.
Okay, let me just move forward. Okay, cool enough. Good.
Article 3, Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive from their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their constituency in office. Continuance, that's what I meant to say. Section 2.
It's not
The
that
judicial
easy,
power. Section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. In all cases...
Wait, real quick. I think we just stumbled upon a great term for people that they're like the U.S. an eagle boo.
Except that, like,
that's what Bar's doing. But
I can actually
they're technically called flying boos.
Eagle Boo is just shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
In all
Just wanted
cases,
that brought to attention for all the YouTube people, which is me.
Yeah, all the two
all
people who watch on YouTube.
yeah. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, and those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. And that is section 3 of Article 3.
Okay, so Article 4, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may, by general laws, prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. So this is the part that kind of establishes state sovereignties.
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes and
touches on
no.
that.
I mean, full faith and credit shall be given to each state. So the fact that somebody's convicted of an offense, say in Montana, then fucks off to Alaska, would be that other state also acknowledges that the legal proceedings or laws that may have been broken or have to be enforced also valid.
Well, they would have to be shipped back to Montana.
Yeah, which means which is the full faith and credit shall be given to the public acts, records, and the judicial proceedings of every other state. This is the glue that keeps all the states together. Instead of saying,
it's a common.
You, sorry.
It's a common misconception that the U.S. is like just one whole country. It's technically like 50 little countries that just have really strong treaties with each other.
They have to play nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, here we go, shall on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction on the crime. No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. Oh boy! This sounds a lot like they're talking about antique farm equipment.
Wait, say that again?
Sounds like they're talking about antique farm equipment, aka slavery.
Oh, yeah.
I know exactly what he meant, but it took a moment for it to fully register.
No, like, it was, yeah, the words weren't clicking in my head.
That was a brilliant way of wording that.
Put it in the basket.
I mean, it kind of sounds like that, or...
It's kind of federal versus state law. That's not entirely inaccurate, Red.
Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within this jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislators of the states concerned as well as of Congress. Well, this kind of makes sense, otherwise things would just...
Well, yeah, you would have...
It would be states fighting with each other constantly.
Well, and you would have states like making satellite states that are beholden to their interests, and
yeah, like you would have like a North Carolina state the size of Rhode Island in the middle of California.
Yeah. Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. Kind of makes sense. You need legitimacy to enforce laws. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in its union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion, and an application of the legislature, or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened, against domestic violence. Well, yeah, territory that you can't protect, you can't really hold.
Yeah. I like how the next 3 articles are pretty goddamn short. And after this, we'll go ahead and talk about this stuff a bit, because there's definitely stuff in here that's worth talking about that maybe someone in the audience has been like, wait, what? Open for questions.
Yeah,
we will open to questions.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get through the Constitution and the Bill of Rights today. At least on a cursory read-through. Alright, now these next 3 are just... They're paragraphs.
Go on, somebody else take over.
I'm taking over. I'll take all 3 of these.
Alright.
Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, on the application of the legislators of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislators of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof. As the one or the other model of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the 1st and 4th clauses in the 9th section of the 1st article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate.
That's more of a states' rights thing.
Yeah, that's definitely
About
states'
the,
rights.
The very mentioned Convention of States.
The
possibility of it happening.
That last part of that is states' rights, but that entire article is just saying, hey, make amendments. We know that shit will not be, this will not be a perfect document forever. Here's your method of fixing it.
I think it's been a longest time since the conditions for an amendment could be made. I think right now it's the Republicans that hold 2/3 of all state houses, or very close to.
Yeah.
Very, very close.
Well,
one away.
I actually discussed this with Barr not too long ago. But in the entire, as of this March, in the entire 234 years since the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, in that time period, there have only been 17 amendments.
Mm-hmm.
There have been more than 17 amendments.
We don't count the Bill of Rights
Fair enough.
because they were with it when it was ratified. But in the going
there's
on
a reason they're known.
234 years since, 17 amendments total have been made to the Constitution.
Alright, I'll continue on to Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Basically, that paragraph is saying the Constitution is paramount. Your state laws and constitutions and all that stuff does not supersede.
Yeah.
The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executives and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
Yeah. So when people say that America is a Christian nation, and it was built
Culturally,
on Christianity,
maybe. Culturally, maybe.
There's
but
a
legally, no.
lot of Christians in the U.S. So yes, it is a Christian nation in that sense. But it was not built on Christianity because that line right there. No religious test.
Yeah, that definitely leads into the First Amendment.
Yeah. First Amendment holds a special place in my heart. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, well, we actually are. It's only taking us 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours to get through the Constitution itself.
Yeah, and you don't have stuff to do until like 3. So yeah.
Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, we got time. We'll start going. Yeah, start going through the Bill of Rights.
We won't cover it in depth. We may take each of those amendments because that's the juicy stuff, and we may do an episode on at least a good portion of them, like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love how nobody argues about the third.
Well, we'll talk about the third when we get to it, because that's an interesting one. It's just because it's been so exclusively followed.
Yeah.
Or so
people keep interfering with the first two a lot. That's why they argue, Jables.
Yeah.
I mean, someone would say once the first two are gone, the rest of them are easy to burn away. But
What are we doing?
I'm
All
doing
right.
the show.
Okay. When's that open?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
Article 7, the last one
Almost
in the
started.
Constitution.
When'd you start?
The
Yeah.
ratification of the conventions of 9 states shall be sufficient for the establishment of this Constitution between the states, so ratifying the same. Done in convention by the unanimous consent of the states present, the 7th day of September in the year of our Lord, 1787, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 12th. In witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names, and it is, here are all the names right here. And I know I actually have Ancestry on the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I don't remember if I have any
Of
ancestry.
course
on
you
this.
would. Yeah, my ancestors didn't come until late 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah, I don't see. I don't know for sure if any of my ancestors signed the Constitution, but that damn Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind that the United States Constitution happened in 1787.
Yeah.
Bill of Rights happened in 1789 and ratified in 1791, so it took 2 years to ratify. So, anyone got questions on the Constitution, or shall we move on to the Bill of Rights? And I will go ahead and read the preamble of the Bill of Rights as well. Also, maybe next Serious Saturday, if anyone catches this on VOD, next Serious Saturday that we have, and we'll announce it ahead of time. Oh, pardon me. We'll announce it ahead of time. But come up with questions. If you have any questions, we may do a question and answer and a sort of semi-research episode on the Constitution to kind of answer questions of those who weren't here today.
Red Rails said they had to agree on how to make it as confusing as possible. What are you confused about? I think that's the more important question. Because they were very specific, and it's done in a different type of English than we're generally using.
Yeah, we could translate it to plain English, but...
I think there's also, like, the issue, like, it is, by all intents and purposes, a legal document.
Yeah.
These things can never be plain or simple, because the things they're meant to rule over are never plain or simple.
Yeah, and they're building a government system. So...
One would almost say, like, you have to be this clever to be in charge.
It is more confusing today than it would have been back then, because it's using the English of the time. It's just like how the tubular and radical seem really antiquated to the kids nowadays who are using bussin' and no cap.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
like,
the words have changed meaning since then.
Yeah,
which is
it's like
important.
there's an episode of Supernatural. Sorry, I've been binging Supernatural. Where Dean goes back in time to talk to Elliot Ness, one of the Untouchables, and he says "awesome," and then Elliot Ness is like, "What about this fills you with awe?" It's like, yeah, language changes in slight little different ways. Like currently now in the dictionary, literally also means figuratively.
I hate that. Fuck.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it too. That's why I don't use it that way.
Some dude just wanted to have the out.
Yeah, that's annoying as hell.
That completely, it invalidates the meaning of the word.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
And I said literally all the time. And
So many idiots just misused it and just said, "Oh, we'll just make ourselves right now."
that literally makes my blood boil.
Oh, so you're in a pot of water. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was also a weirdo teen. My sister and I would choose a word of the day and have a competition of how many times we could use it in conversation. That's what broke me of using the word literally. Was just learning other words.
Alright, I'll go ahead and read the preamble. We can see if there's anything worth discussing. And then, Jables, if you want, you can take the First Amendment. I'm definitely taking the second.
That is, yeah. First Amendment's my jam.
Oh, we know.
Congress of the United States begun and held in the city of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of a number of the states have, at the time of their adopting... Oh, let me pull up the Bill of Rights. This isn't going to be shown on the Bill of Rights. This is the preamble in the book, but we'll see if there's anything worth discussing.
Yeah, they have a lot of extra shit on the archives.org. By the way,
I'm just going to leave
I'm
these
gonna
collapsed
DM
except
you
for the
link
one
to
we're
what
reading.
I'm looking at and what Rimshee's probably.
Will do.
The convention of a number of the states having, at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of the public confidence in the government will best ensure the benefit and
Beneficent.
beneficent
beneficial.
ends of its institution. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring, that the following articles be proposed to the legislators of the several states, as amendments to the Constitution of the United States. All, or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of the said legislator, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution, viz. Articles in addition to and amendments of the Constitution of the United States of America proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislators of the several states, pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. So, some interesting stuff about the Bill of Rights. The Second Amendment was going to be first, then it was going to be fourth, and it was just how they were moving stuff around. They eventually got it to the point where the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, so on and so forth, were what they were based on that.
Yeah.
And then, this is what you guys have on screen. I'll go ahead and read this. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. It spells out America's rights in relation to their government. It guarantees civil rights and liberties to the individual, like freedoms of speech, press, and religion. It sets rules for due process of law and reserves all powers not delegated to the federal government to the people or the states. And it specifies that the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Now, an important thing here, and it doesn't exactly make this clear, I don't know if that's intentional or just how it's worded. The Bill of Rights does not grant rights. The Constitution and the amendments do not grant... Well, no, specifically the Bill of Rights does not grant the rights that it speaks of. It expressly denies the government the ability to infringe on them.
Yeah. These are unalienable rights.
These are rights that, in the view of the founders, already exist. Yeah. And these amendments specifically state that these rights are not to be violated.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the Bill of Rights is not they're called amendments, but the Bill of Rights is specifically supposed to be set in stone. It's like the Ten Commandments.
Do not fuck with this. It's like the core of an operating system. And there's a
Yeah.
good reason for that, because in a lot of other countries, the laws are determined by whoever's in charge. You have
Yeah.
whatever rights your country tells you have, and they can, as they have before, revoke them or change them.
Yeah.
And
I-
horrible, scary
On a
things
whim.
happen.
I think it was a little short-sighted for them to call the Bill of Rights each individual one like an amendment. I think that was a little short-sighted because a lot of people argue, well, it's an amendment. We can change that.
Well, the issue
there
is
has
that
to be
that's
a
how
lot
they.
of conditions in place.
The issue is that's how they enshrined it into the Constitution. It's an amendment, but just because it's an amendment does not mean it's not what we're saying. But that was the only method by Constitution that they had to apply the Bill of Rights to the Constitution, which is why they're amendments. But they're specifically called the Bill of Rights. It's not just these are the amendments; these are the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
So the whole part of
and they're also referenced as our God-given rights, which annoys the shit out of me.
It was the language at the time to.
Yeah, but a lot of the founding fathers a lot of the founding fathers were against that language too, and
but in the end,
it just feels the Christians harder on like.
They had to express to a majority of their citizens that something was beyond them. It could not be changed by the laws of men. It was inalienable. It was easier to explain it as a shorthand at the time, like saying, no man decides this. This is like from above.
Yeah, I understand that. Doesn't mean it doesn't frustrate me.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
But again, like the point being, like everybody understands that the spirit behind this and why I think it's lasted for as long as it did is like nobody gets to override this. Like simple politics or regime change or lawfare will not interfere with the system, which is where a lot of other republics and constitutions went to shit. Because they allowed, through one method or another, access to their core system, and they imploded.
The first 10 are basic human rights. That's
not to be touched with ever. Although, again, like people like to try and use clever language, like, "Oh, it's an amendment, so it should be amended." Except if you actually look at the context in which it was written, which is super important when it comes to a document that's almost over 200.
It's over 250 years old.
No,
yeah. So let's go to the First Amendment. My favorite one. Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Some weird shit going on here. I have to find the actual amendments.
I'll send you, Rimshee, I'll DM you a link of what I'm looking for.
Because this isn't showing the actual amendments, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you and I pulled up different pages. You gotta scroll down a little bit to get to the amendments, but it's down there.
It's there. The U.S. Bill of Rights, yeah. Yeah, there we go.
I'll start over with just as much intensity.
All right, there we are.
No, that's still the article. Scroll down more.
There we go. The U.S. Bill of Rights. There we go. It's on the screen
I was
now.
there, Jables. You're just slow for digital
Yeah,
reasons.
sorry, it's just so much smaller on that. Yeah, so Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievance.
Oh.
Basically, censorship by the government is not allowed. Period.
Yep.
Or thought control, which is basically why they have freedom of religion.
I would
It's-
say
it's-
censorship. I would say thought control is a subset of censorship.
Yeah.
Which is, censorship is a tool of control. You control if you interfere with definitions and flow of language, if you interfere with thought structures and beliefs, i.e. religion, you start messing around with how people think or what they're allowed to think or not. Which is
That's why
and this is,
the Satanic Temple always protests things by doing like, well, let's just put up a statue of Baphomet since you have the 10 Commandments out there. And then the government's like, no, we don't want that. And so they take down the 10 Commandments. That's a...
That's a good reason this is the First Amendment.
I mean, the First Amendment is pretty simple, but it can get in as depth as we want. For example, the fire in a theater argument. Well, that was an argument made in a decision by a judge, but was later... But it was not based on law or anything like that. It was an example used. And even then, that example was overturned.
That speech that causes, like, direct harm and panic.
Yeah, when it stops being expressing your opinion or an idea or incitement to actions that may cause harm. That kind of makes sense. Like when words stop being words. It's like saying, it's like saying, Jesus, I wish somebody would kick Jablus' ass. And me saying, hey guys, let's kick Jablus' ass.
Yeah. Fine line, but very different.
Yeah.
I hope you get hit by a bus, as opposed to me saying, hey, bus driver, there's bar. Let's run him over.
Yeah.
That's...
Funny how people get very selective in terms of understanding this.
Yeah. Well, and I'm in a lot of comedy spheres, so it's a lot.
Yeah. Given that interest, you were acutely aware of how quickly people try and shut that down.
Yeah, I mean, the First Amendment could easily boil down to some weird stuff if you let it.
Yeah.
But it's also why it's so important to not be fucked with, because there's too much at stake here. Again, everything that's gone wrong in other countries has to do with the very things it's trying to
Well, yeah,
stop.
I think the perfect
starts
example
there.
is Count Dankula.
Mm.
Like him or hate him.
He shouldn't have been arrested for that.
Yeah.
It was a dumb joke. He was trying to prank his girlfriend. That's it. And he got
Pretty
arrested for it. Because he said, Sieg Heil a few too many times.
God damn it, Jables.
What?
I'm just concerned about Twitch on that one.
Oh, no. We're fine within the context. I reread through, like, Twitch's TOS.
Yeah, but how strictly do they actually pay attention to their TOS?
Well, I can play one song and we'll get taken down.
Don't do that. Yeah, Dankula's whole thing was that he was trying to do a joke, and you can be offended by a joke all you want. They treated him as though he was an anti-Semite for the joke he said, or for the joke he did.
Well, I have that one joke about suicide that involves trans people, and Addie adamantly hates that I came up with that joke because I'm not trans.
See, that's the other thing. Like, the moment we decide you need to be a special class of individual to say certain things, you're instituting
the
a caste
police
system, and there are no equal rights under the law.
Yeah, but I had to explain, like, the joke's about suicide rates, not. It's just a.
No, it's
people
that entire logic again.
And
like,
I've.
it's a bad logic to follow down. It's one of my problems with the whole intersectional thing. Everybody fought for too long and gave up too much for every individual to have rights under the law.
Red, what it looks like is the police actually saw the police in his area, the ones that actually arrested him, sought out someone to be
they also, what it looks like is they also notified the press, because the press showed up and then the police showed up.
It was a circus, dude.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Also,
I'm sure most
another
police
thing that
don't
happened,
think
like,
it's a joke.
after Dankula was arrested, he couldn't find a job anymore because he was labeled as a Nazi. He was just like a bouncer at some sort of club. But he
a lot of
couldn't.
jobs over the years, but that's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, but like he couldn't. Nobody would hire him after that.
Yeah.
He had to make YouTube his job after that. He's doing pretty good at it. Not gonna lie, but like,
his life could have been easily just as ruined.
yeah, if he wasn't as charismatic as he is, he would have been fucked. He would have been homeless.
If they had just left him alone, he would have remained just a one trick pony with the Nazi pug video, and no one would have known about shit beyond that.
Yeah,
It makes no sense, especially like the history of comedy in the United Kingdom. Like, making fun of these things is part of what takes away their power and allows you to talk about them, process them for people with trauma. I mean, Christ, you want to see people with some really dark humor about World War II? Talk to some Auschwitz survivors.
Yeah, well, we still deal with decency laws here in the U.S., but a lot of what abolished that was Lenny Bruce and George Carlin constantly getting arrested for saying
Bruce had the worst of it. Like, people don't even know. Like, a lot of comedians these days don't understand. They can only go into a stage to talk about the things that matter to them, or criticize things because of what guys like Bruce had to go through. Yeah. And now they're turning into the very people that would have thrown Bruce into prison, which is supremely hypocritical.
Yeah, you can't talk about anything nowadays. I go to comedy clubs. People talk about all sorts of shit.
Yeah. I mean,
sometimes it's funny, sometimes they get groans, but nobody gives a shit.
Everybody and not every swing is going to be a hit. You have to be allowed to fail. It's like any other form of art.
Yeah.
The bigger your goals are, the more margin of error there are. It's just a thing that happens.
You start with stick figures and you work your way up to photorealism. It's not.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to make a masterpiece, but you can't guarantee you're going to make a masterpiece. Instead, you might end up with something that isn't there and people don't like. That's okay.
Yeah. The thing is, First Amendment protects me legally to say the N-word. And I think that's real special.
Yeah, that's the part you took away from that. I mean, I would say the First Amendment protects everyone that wants to say that word, so that we all know what kind of person they are, good or bad.
Well, I got a pass. I'll call Willie right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure you're gonna be able to validate that coupon everywhere, Jables.
Oh, I know. But
Yeah.
that's the other thing about the First Amendment. It only legally protects you. It does not protect you from social
Consequence, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, how would Twitter be able to block people for this or that? How would they have been able to block Trump? How would Facebook be able to do all this stuff? How?
Well, because
Yeah.
again, like a lot of people were saying before Elon bought it, it's a private company; it can do what it wants.
Yeah.
Until the private company belongs to an individual you don't like, then it's still important to remain private. Again,
Yes.
like I don't even care like whose side is right specifically. I do care that when you use an argument and then as soon as things aren't to your liking, you change your entire logic. That's bullshit.
Well, also, my stance with the internet, once you tell people not to do something, a million
Fuck
people
that.
are going to do the thing. Just let people be people. Let them get to know each other, and then they'll create like sympathy and empathy and stuff like that, and things will generally work out okay.
Generally,
But if you tell somebody they can't do something,
it's just asking for it.
Streisand effect!
yeah,
Yep. But anyway, back to this. Like, I think like the importance of the First Amendment is, I mean, to a reasonable, smart person, is there why the ability to communicate, and again, like as they say, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Like, if things are going wrong, you need to be able to tell people they're going wrong.
yeah.
You
Well,
need to
you need
point
the
out
people to be
problems.
able to
Yeah.
congregate to be like, "Hey, fuck you! What are you doing?"
Not even that. Just to be able to talk to each other. Go, I don't think this is going well. Do you? No. What do you think the
Alright.
problem is? This. What do you think a solution might be? This, I guess. And they can all let them know. Yeah, we the people aren't okay with this thing. You take that away, what you have is a bunch of individuals could be easily suppressed. Which, again,
Yeah.
not to go into my own country's history, so that there's mechanisms through which, like, these things exist because without them, it makes everyone extremely vulnerable and easy to be controlled.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why we wanted you on for this conversation, Burrs, because of your parents' history of dealing with fascism.
Also, a country that did not have democracy for a while.
Yeah.
Did not have these protections or guarantees, and things get extremely dark really quickly. And I think a problem with some Americans is say, oh, this is just an antiquated thing and it should be like rewritten, gotten rid of. Yeah, don't start knocking down the foundations of a building if you don't know which walls are which.
Yeah.
Because it'll come down into your head super fucking quickly.
Yeah,
Just
that's a
because you
load-bearing pillar. That's a load-bearing pillar. Don't chop it.
Yeah. Just, I don't care if you needed a window there. Maybe you should just move somewhere else in the house to accommodate you. And the idea, and it's basically like the idea. Oh, let's change the First Amendment because I get offended over what some people say. Is like, oh, just get rid of that load-bearing pillar because I'd like a window there. Like, it's a frivolous demand given the importance of what's in place. It's literally exchanging a right for a privilege, which is stupid. But
Yeah, and a lot of people don't recognize, like, yeah, the people that agree with you right now all want this. But what if the people that disagree with you get into power? Now you can't say anything.
Yep.
It's
I mean, it's funny how, a lot of accounts got banned on Twitter because of expressing violent speech and inciting crimes. And then they started talking about censorship and repression. Like, pretty sure, A, you never had a right to say those things to begin with. It just wasn't being enforced. B, now you're worried about not being able to have a say.
Yeah.
Again, like, speech is a form of social cohesion. That breaks up. You
Well,
don't have.
it's just not speech. It's the freedom of expression in general.
Oh.
Like,
Well, when they use speech, they also meant. I mean, again,
yeah.
it can be interchangeable there.
Yeah, well, the Supreme Court ruled that like
I'm sure,
visual
like,
art is a form of speech.
speech. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, a lot of people who try to be like armchair lawyers forget, like, your constitution has been like pragmatic, not pragmatic, tangible examples of Supreme Court rulings in the modern age that assess what speech what constitutes or not speech, etc. Like, examples of, we had to deal with this situation, so we made a ruling about it. Kind of like mods have to make rules in their servers because of actual things that go down.
Kind of
Then
like
become
how
rules.
Rimshee and I built a lot of the rules by me breaking them.
Or at least finding
yeah.
out a way to break them. I mean,
Oh my
it's
God.
like that old
Can you imagine
quote.
that? Some founding father out there going, well, what if I go do this?
That's
that-
almost
but
certainly
that's
what
what-
they did.
And they're like,
That's what-
Jefferson, no, stop!
Yeah,
God
that's
damn it,
what-
now we have to...
That's what Rimshee and I did when we made the rules. It was like, he would write a rule and I'd be like, but I could do that.
Well, it wasn't that I would write a rule. It's that I would write a version of the rule, and we'd discuss the wording of it. Because the intent was there, it was just how it was worded.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like that old quote: "Those who sacrifice freedom for safety deserve neither."
Yeah. Also, there's another good point: is in the historical context, like, the United States had just fought a revolutionary war against an oppressive government that was keeping them down.
Let me read the Second Amendment before we get into this.
Yeah, I was about to say that too.
The Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, let me say a little bit on the text there. A lot of people will say that this is about militias, and they will make weird claims about the army is the militia and stuff like that. No, the army is a standing army. A militia is all the male... The National Guard is closer to being a militia than the army, and it's still not a militia. The militia is all the able-bodied individuals of a region who can bear arms being called up to do so.
Mm-hmm. Also, to
For
remember, like,
some reason.
No country in the history have ever had to secure the right of its military to keep weapons. This would have been the most stupid, redundant law ever.
And
if that was the case. So that argument just goes out the window. Standing armies have existed since as long as recorded civilization existed. A law never needed to be done for this. It is such an ass pull. And by the way, I believe it is United States versus Heller established the individual in modern era establishes the individual's right to carry arms. So people bringing that up right now is already like a moot point. Supreme Court has already made a decision on this.
Yeah, I think a better perspective of this amendment is your right to protect yourself, your property, and your family, as opposed to get a gun. It's more.
It's also why, like, self-defense of your person and property are a nice side benefit. But let's address the elephant in the room. Why this amendment really exists? Why every American is supposed to?
Government?
Yes, the thing nobody wants, a lot of your politicians do not want to discuss and go, oh, people have a right to hunt. No, motherfucker. Most countries in Europe allow you to have hunting shotguns and rifles. That's not what the Second Amendment is about.
Well, okay.
Sorry, I just bring it up because it's
yeah. No, I know
disingenuous.
exactly what you're talking about, and I know the talking point that's going to be thrown back at us, which is, what, you think you can defend against the U.S. military with just a bunch of guns when they have tanks and drones and things like that?
Well, the
You know my
Afghanis did an
response to
excellent.
that?
That's
hold on,
exactly what I was going into.
You know what my response to that is? Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq,
Vietnam.
Again, it doesn't even address the fact those were
And
foreign
they
wars.
even just had AK-47s, an extremely outdated gun.
Well, don't tell
Not
that
even
to
that.
the
It's a
AK
fact,
guy.
like that's
Good
fighting.
gun.
That's fighting hostile power abroad. The rules for
Also-
engagement in your own country against your own citizens would make a lot of the tactics that you still didn't manage to use to good effect, unusable.
Also, don't military members swear an oath to the Constitution, not to the
Correct.
government?
It's
Yeah.
not to
But
the
that
government,
point-
it's not to the
yeah.
president, it's to the Constitution of the United States.
So any tyrannical government would be treasonous. So you would be fighting a hostile domestic enemy in their form, which also gets rid of. Oh, you wouldn't get a gun against our own soldiers and police officers. Well, if they're fucking
No.
traitors, yes, you should.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
They're no
lot
longer
of
yours.
a lot of police officers and a lot of military members would be on the citizen side.
Yeah. It's whoever's left is no longer legitimate government that you need to be. It's just a series of such weak gotchas that
Yeah,
they think, like, anybody who thinks about these things for like more than a minute realizes, no, you're full of shit.
Yeah, it's about fighting against enemies both foreign and domestic.
Anyone who overthrows the legitimate government of the United States by overthrowing the Constitution itself or the democratic process is no longer a legitimate representative, is a usurper.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
No
any
different from a
tyrannical-
foreign. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Meanwhile, any tyrannical government would be like, domestic violence is it's a bad thing. Okay.
No, but again, like,
But
it
most people.
worries me a lot more than politicians are saying that you couldn't defend yourself against a tyrannical government if it did happen. That's more worrying than the fact that people prepare for that possibility. One of these sounds a lot more treasonous than the other, to be very honest. It's like, oh, like, it's a good thing I'm such a gentleman, I won't take advantage of you when you come over to my place, but even if I wasn't a gentleman, there's nothing you could do about it. Like, buddy, that's a problematic way of phrasing this to a lady.
Also, more for like self-protection and stuff, the amount of people that I know that were extremely anti-gun when lockdowns started happening, the amount of people that asked me, hey, how do I buy a gun?
Yeah, a lot of. I heard that
Yeah,
story.
I'm anti-gun, so I don't even know how.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Rimshee in California probably heard some.
I
used to be anti-gun.
I only have
I mean what Jables was saying about people like anti-gun.
No, I didn't have anyone ask me shit.
I only have 2 guns, but I've been pretty vocally like pro-gun, and people thought I had like 15 guns or something like that, and they were like, "Hey, could I borrow a gun?" I'm like, "No, definitely not."
Oh, the fuck is wrong with you? Didn't you believe in weren't you the person that believed in background checks and all of that?
Universal background checks, even between
Waiting periods. Yeah, all of that shit.
I'm relatively okay with some of that, but it's not. But it's still like,
no.
just go buy
Fuck off.
Yeah, I
Sorry, go on.
there are
But here's
some
the thing,
people
when
I don't
things
want
get-
them to buy a gun and ammo on the same day.
Yeah,
'Cause,
well,
you know,
obviously there's some issues
that's-
there. Like, it's amazing how, the last couple of years, for several reasons, we don't need to go into them, people's opinions in the United States about gun ownership and self-protection have changed dramatically. It's almost like when real shit starts happening, people's convictions are tested.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, why do you need a gun? And now you can just name dates.
Oh, I have
And
a
people know
I have a
exactly
buddy-
what you mean.
I have a buddy that was pro-gun. His wife was anti-gun, so we didn't have a gun in the house, just like out of respect for her and whatnot. Well, he
Hey,
did
look.
have a gun in the house. She just didn't know about it. And when the pandemic hit, she was like, "Okay, I feel like things are gonna go bad. Could you go get a gun?" And he was like,
one.
"I got one."
Yeah, Royce Gracie.
She was mad at him a little bit for like lying about having the gun, but other than that,
Forget it.
like
I'm gonna
overall-
tell you something is amazing. Like, Royce Gracie lives in Florida now, the United States. This
Yeah.
is a man who went like 4 of the UFCs, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master, probably one of the most competent martial artists still alive, and he conceal carries constantly. The guy whose ability to defend himself with his bare hands is more than any one of us still finds the need for self-protection to back heat. That guy needs to, and everyone else also needs to.
You need
Self-protection.
equal or greater armaments compared to your assailant. And since your assailant
Yep.
can get anything, whether it's legal or illegal, as long as it's within, like,
Yeah.
chances are they're not gonna go out and be able to buy a rocket launcher on the street. It's possible, but it's not a high likelihood, at least here in the US.
Hell, it's not even a new concept. Like, Yamato Musashi in the 15th century, again, like one of the greatest swordsmen that ever lived, has a small paragraph in the Book of Five Ranks when it says, when it comes to what they do, firearms are unparalleled. Even that guy quickly understood, like, when it comes to gun shit, you need a gun. You
Yeah.
don't go around it.
And also, I just wanna shit on some gun people real quick.
Oh yeah,
The Fuds.
If I the
The Fuds and the Marvins.
a 22 pistol will still kill somebody, you dumbasses.
Oh my god, who's been saying?
I was having
I
this
mean-
conversation with Burb
I mean-
last night.
It doesn't matter how big of a gun you have. It works.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Now, a 22 is not going to be a 22 long rifle is not going to be as effective as, say, a 9mm or a 45 or a 332. But yeah, there are some people who think if you get shot by a 22, it's not going to kill you.
Well,
Well,
fair, there's FUDs and there's also the Disraeli
like I
defense.
mean, if you're wearing a vest, sure, it's not going to do anything. It's going to be like a BB. But
Only if it hits the vest.
yeah, that's the thing. But if you're not wearing a vest, it's still going to tear through you.
Mhm.
Like, it's not. Yes, Red. There are gun people that are like, that's not powerful enough. That's like shooting a BB gun. Yeah, it's
To be fair, you want to maximize your chances of being effective. Holy god.
Red, real quick,
I know-
Red, going back to
I-
purchasing a firearm, we cannot discuss exactly how that works because of Twitch TOS and stuff like that. But it does involve a background check, and not all states have waiting periods. But
I will.
purchasing a gun on average takes about a half hour to an hour. Period.
Go to a gun store, talk to the person there. They know, they're well versed
Not
on
Red
it
because
it's
she's in the UK, but in the US,
Yeah.
off air, I will be happy to discuss with you how the steps to purchase a firearm. but not on
I
air.
will tell you one thing. I recently found out, because I went to the mental hospital like 2 years ago, Declaring that it's voluntary or involuntary makes a huge difference.
Well, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Well, what they
Kind of
told
was-
him was it would give him more control over his meds to be voluntary. What they didn't tell him was that if it was involuntary, he would have lost any ability to own a firearm.
yeah. Yeah, I would have lost all of my gun rights if I said it was involuntary.
Mhm.
Yeah, Red, we never said he didn't have guns over there. It's just I don't know what your country's laws are necessarily.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
we're not talking to your
here's an
country's laws.
example
I
of-
know that I don't like your country's laws, but that's different.
I mean, yeah, we know Americans don't like British laws. You made your own country over that. That's how
Hey,
much
you have a potato peeler. You got a license for that?
But, yeah, the thing. Oh fuck! What was I gonna say?
Yeah, they're
I mean, for the people who might not know, again, like this, it comes to the Second Amendment as being like a lot of recent Supreme Court decisions that say yes, individuals have the right to bear arms for their own, either for the immediate preservation of life and property in their home. Heller take care of that, but also about their person, and they have the right to keep and bear those arms. The bearing part is being very relevant in a recent court case, which was New York City's Pistol and Rifle Association v. Bruin, which is New York State Attorney.
Usually shortened to Bruin, just like the case involving Heller is called Heller. I don't even remember the full case. I just remember it as Heller.
Actually, there's three
Oh.
cases.
Cats!
Hey, real
Yeah,
quick.
hey,
Hey, thanks
cat.
for the 3 biddies, cat.
Biggest cats. That's the only time cats is in the itty bitty committee. So it's Heller decided that an individual.
It
There.
didn't Heller didn't decide anything.
It
It affirmed.
affirmed. Yes, thank
Just
you
like
so
with
much.
Bruin, it affirmed. And in general, that's what's going on.
McDonald,
Most of these
Supreme
cases
Court-
are affirmations.
Yeah. Remind me, McDonald, what was that case about? Because I understand, like, keeping and bearing arms inside or outside of the house is outside of the home. Concealed carrying or bearing arms is Bruin. The individual's right to carry is Heller. McDonald is also another important case, and I can't remember which part of the Second Amendment it confirmed. Again, like, I know it's a very contentious topic in and of itself, but like a lot of people that argue against the Second Amendment really don't understand these things. That the law has been examined, and there are specific meanings under the law about what can or can't constitute things.
Yeah, like
Like they're talking
But
about it
there's-
like if it's never been decided.
but there's
Basically,
also like
McDonald
there's a lot of
said
personal
that-
responsibility stuff.
McDonald states that, the Second Amendment also applies to the motherfucking states.
Hmm.
You can't get around it by passing a law in a state.
Yeah, you can't just flip it. Yeah. Oh, in my state, we're gonna do things different. Yeah. Like, your state is
Or a
trying to
city. Or a city. A city could not get around it by passing a law. Because it was McDonald versus City of Chicago. So, I guess City of Chicago tried doing something sketchy.
Yeah. Well, Chicago still hasn't.
I'm looking
learned.
at it
Hell,
right now.
State of Illinois still hasn't learned. They're gonna have to a second time. So a lot of these arguments you see people floating over.
It was
Oh,
so
there's-
McDonald was the possession of a firearm, and Chicago tried to ban possession of either handguns or firearms as a whole. I'm not entirely sure.
Infringing-
Doesn't really
therefore
matter.
infringing your constitutional right to
Yep.
your constitutional right to keep and bear.
Well,
It was a Chicago ordinance banning the possession of handguns by name and all other guns as well.
Yeah, it. Yeah, the
Or by class.
well,
Handguns by
the
class.
argument. Yeah, the argument for banning certain guns is that, oh no, you can still have some guns because you can still keep and bear arms. You just can't have all guns.
You
Some other-
still
I mean, there's
have
some-
you can still possess guns. It just takes you 12 years to even purchase one.
Yeah, and you can never
Yeah.
actually carry it or use it, but you can
Yeah.
have it. In theory.
Yeah, you're not allowed to own fully automatics in the U.S.
I
That's the
mean,
90s.
But I can
Technically-
teach you how to make a really cool phone holder.
Actually, that's not even true. Actually,
You're not
Jables-
allowed to. You're not allowed to
Jable.
own any full automatic weapon made after, I think it's 84.
yeah, without like special licensing.
Yeah,
No,
you give the
Period.
Yeah,
You
like-
cannot.
yeah, but
A civilian
you can
cannot
have-
own any. Hold on, Bar. A civilian cannot own any full auto firearm
post 84, yeah.
built or manufactured after 84.
So it's
And
not fair. To say,
any full auto made before 84 has to be
Yeah.
registered.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you give the
like-
government its fuck off money, you can have a machine gun. It's important to actually say that, Jables, because it helps perpetuate a few of the lies that are still out there. They're like, oh, when the sitting president of the United States tell people you can't own a cannon when you can still own a cannon and you always could under your
Yeah.
law.
It's also fair for me to say,
Mhm.
gun laws are racist.
Yes. A lot of them are based.
Yeah,
I mean, just look at a lot of the court cases.
The first gun.
Look
the
at a
first
lot
gun
of the recent
restriction was
court
because
cases
the
with
Black
California.
Panthers were out during the Civil War. Not Civil War. Sorry, that Civil Rights era.
Mm.
Black Panthers were out there with guns, and they were like, "Hey, we should probably put restrictions on guns."
Oh, you can go even further than that. You had some of your first gun control laws back in the colonies against the blacks and Native
Indians.
Americans.
Against slaves and Native Americans.
Yep.
Not necessarily the blacks, because
A
well,
lot
they
of-
were the primary slave populace. It wasn't like they were the only slave populace.
Yeah. Well, there was also the Irish.
Exactly.
Also, a good reply to, why do you need more than X rounds in a gun? Because lynch mobs can come in more than 10.
Yeah,
Well,
why?
I've got an aunt.
why do you
I've got an
need-
aunt
why do you
who-
need,
who tried? I've got an aunt who tried arguing with me about why does anyone need a bunch of guns? Like, okay, you have one or two. Why do you need 10? Why do you need 20? You don't need more than 20 guns, but if you put a limit on only, like, you can only have 10 guns or you can only have 5 guns.
Yeah, that's
well,
how it started.
now you've
Yeah.
made it illegal for museums to possess firearms. You've made it illegal for collectors to possess the collection that they want.
Yeah, I only have 2 guns, but that's a personal choice.
I won't say how many I have.
Yeah, Rimshee's smart like that.
Well,
No, it's a good thing. Again, it goes into the greater purpose of the Second Amendment, which is it's not the government's business who owns how many guns and where they are.
That's more of a Fifth Amendment thing.
It connects to the Second Amendment. In practical terms. Like, again, this is why the idea of a national gun registry is a horrible idea, and they keep trying that. That's all background. That's a lot of background checks are just about how they can keep tabs on who's owning guns and how many and where. In as close as terms as they can get away with it. But that's
Yeah, I'm not. I have a. Never mind. I shouldn't say that on here. Never mind.
Like, I believe that they should be able to check if you're eligible to own a gun. They shouldn't keep records
So
of you having
background. So here's the thing. There are a bunch of people who say background checks shouldn't exist at all. I can understand where they're coming from, and I'm trying to keep it during this discussion. I'm trying to keep it from becoming the entire rest of the show because I do want to get through the rest of the Bill of Rights at least.
Well,
but
yeah, it's fine.
There are plenty of people who will say that background checks shouldn't exist, and I see exactly where they're coming from. According to the Second Amendment, I can agree that technically that's true. However, I will also say that if you're talking about the Knicks background checks, where it's just an instant, not instant, but it just takes a few minutes. Yeah. You're in and out the same day. Your background has been ran, and it came back clean. It prevents people who would be barred, who are like felons who violently who have violently committed crimes, stuff like that. It prevents them from being able to purchase something legally. Sure. I got no problem with that. But the key there is that it's simple. They can run the background check pretty quick. The Knicks background check, it's the National Instant Background Check. It's fast. You don't have to wait 3 days for it to finish.
Yeah, the internet exists. But Rimshee, I also have a problem where, like, I was one word away from not being able to own firearms anymore. Yeah.
I'm talking about the basis of background checks. That's a different thing entirely.
The idea that you need to verify who's eligible or not is reasonable. How it's implemented, however, is not.
Rimshee has seen me around firearms. I am extremely careful.
Yeah, as well you should be.
Yeah, you're extremely careful until you suck a gun like a dick.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, if it's big and black, you can see how James would get confused.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. The three people who were quote unquote range safety officers were the only three people who got injured that day.
Oof. God damn it. Oof. That story still pisses me off. Anyway.
Well, it's funny. I saw it. I almost slapped somebody because I saw him like waving around a gun a little too wildly that day.
What story? What story, Bar? Because I'm talking about the Saints get together for.
I know. Wedding. That's what I'm talking about. Someone told me that a person we all know flagged someone with a gun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
he got yelled at by everybody.
As well, he should have. Then again, knowing who it is, it's no surprise. But it's still fucking. It's both terrifying and infuriating.
It is terrifying.
But most
since we're talking
there
about
had a great respect
since
for
we're
guns,
talking
so
about the Second Amendment, I'm just gonna quickly go through. Treat every weapon as if it were loaded. Never point a weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot. Keep your finger straight and off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Keep your weapon on safe until you intend to fire.
Yep.
And those last two can kind of switch up depending on the type of firearm you're dealing with.
Or what you're doing with the firearm.
Yep.
Well, no, here it depends on the type of firearm you're using because, like, for example, a police sniper rifle, those things are on a hair trigger, or any purpose-built sniper rifle. Yeah. Those things are generally on a hair trigger so that you get the least amount of deviation from your sight picture to make the most accurate shot. So you breathe wrong, that thing can go off. Those, you definitely have to keep the weapon on safe until you actually are intending to fire. AK or an AR that hasn't been purpose modified to to be more on a hair trigger. Something that's just a standard 3 to 5 pound trigger. Those things, you can toss those with the safety off and it's not likely to go off unless it hits a very specific way. But if you're just handling it normally, you can have the safety off and it's not likely to go off, but that doesn't mean you should just walk around with the safety off all the time.
Yeah. My problem with most guns is that I'm a lefty.
I'm in a similar boat. I'm a
And
lefty too,
so
which is why I
it's-
have specifically designed a firearm I may or may not have to be functional and beneficial to lefties.
Yeah, so like the way a lot of safeties are set
Yeah.
is you're supposed to
It's just people.
disengage them with like your thumb
Mm.
or a finger on the right side of the gun where all your fingers are.
It's an
I'm a
ergonomic
lefty.
issue. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. As a
I'm
lefty, I can't do
left-handed.
that.
I'm left-handed myself, so I understand.
I'm left-handed, and I spent time in the Marine Corps, and, yeah, all of those firearms, all of those rifles are not modified for lefties at all.
Yeah,
So
a lot-
I got good.
correct
I
me
got
if I'm
good
wrong,
at manipulating. I got good at manipulating the safety with the knuckle that the knuckle on my index on my left hand. So finger stays
okay.
there.
So
I just
on your index finger, on your left
yeah,
hand?
not the that top knuckle, the one at the base of the index finger.
Yeah.
I got good at that because I had no
Okay.
other choice.
To be fair, like a lot of modern manufacturers have been accommodating people in terms of, at least for like rifle
By
platforms.
the way, we could probably do a whole episode on being lefty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we might at some
Yeah.
point.
We all have that in common, so yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'll just
we
offer,
can
like-
talk about our struggles.
You know, as an oppressed class of people.
Oh,
But
no,
we're still on the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
okay. Well,
So just to resume, like the first part of it covers, being necessary for the security of a free state.
Most
AKA,
people will.
if your government fucks around, it'll find out.
Most
And the second
people
part of it,
most people mistake that first part as the operative clause, but that's the prefatory clause. That is why the amendment exists.
that's it's either
That
willfully
is why it
ignorant or
exists,
evil.
not what it is. It's why
No,
it
well,
exists.
after
The
after
right of the
security
people
a
to
free
bear
state-
arms, the right of the people to bear arms not being infringed is what the amendment is. The reason
Yeah.
the people should be have a right to bear arms is
Yeah.
so that they can form militias in times of need. But
Like, the security of free state,
them forming militia, being able to form militias in times of need, is not required for them to have the right to own firearms.
as Heller has proved. As Heller has proved. But the way they interpret these things usually invalidates both portions of it, actually, which is why it's so insidious.
Yeah, there's a lot of arguments about the commas.
Yeah. Again, that argument has already been settled, and it's a way to pretty much say that it's a way by breaking.
No, it has
one it-
the argument's still ongoing. It's not settled yet.
No, some people
I-
want to keep that argument. But United States, the Heller decision has acknowledged. Sorry, Rimshee, has acknowledged individuals have the right to bear arms until it is repealed. That argument has been settled.
No,
If they-
I've heard far lefty quote unquote constitutional lawyers argue that well-regulated militia is the most important part of that.
Those lawyers
Well,
need to make it
so
happen what
he's
it matters.
Barr's not saying the arguments that are made. He's saying that those arguments are invalid based on Heller, despite what these people think.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fair, but these are people.
Yeah, they're
that are
still making those
actively-
arguments. It's not going to stop those
Man,
arguments, unfortunately.
They can make them all they want
They
until
are
they
they are actively trying to change it, and that's why we need to
keep fighting the good fight.
protect
Yes.
our rights.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, things have never been as good in terms of fighting for your Second Amendment rights as they have right now. Honestly,
Pretty much, the First and Second Amendment are in tandem because
yeah,
it's like,
there are no guarantees.
I'm gonna say whatever the fuck I want. If you come up and punch me, I'll punch you back.
Mm.
That's what the First and Second Amendment.
If there's a credible threat of you punching me, I have the right to punch you back.
Yeah. Well,
It gets a lot more strict as you go up the use of force ladder, but if you're using punching as the example.
yeah.
Because someone doesn't have to shoot you or shoot at you for you to be able to use a firearm in self-defense.
You have to have a legitimate belief that your life is in danger to be able to use lethal force.
And
The amount of lively
anyone
videos I've
who
seen of
says-
somebody dying from one punch, my life's always in danger.
anyone who says that there's no reason for you to shoot them in the chest, you should shoot them in the leg, is completely forgetting about the fact that there is a major artery in the leg that will cause
Yeah,
you
the
to bleed
femoral
out
artery.
if you get
Yep.
hit in. And that's assuming, and that's just the most dangerous place there to get hit. My
Well-
best friend D6 accidentally shot himself in the calf.
Mhm.
It's a funny story now, but at the time, it was scary.
Uh-huh.
He shot himself in the calf because he failed to verify the chambers of this revolver he was trying to clean were clear.
Yeah.
He hit the ejection rod on the cylinder, assumed that did the job, and started put the cylinder back into the firearm and started cleaning. Well, it just so turns out that the 22 caliber, the 22 long rifle bullet that happened to still be in the cylinder was right in the chamber that was right in front of the hammer. So when the hammer slipped forward and struck that primer, it went off into his calf. Lucky him, it was into his calf, and he
Not
had his
head.
wife there with him, and was able to get to the hospital to get treated.
No, that's just the biological realities of the fact that like you can die from gunshot. The problem is also if you need to use lethal force, it's because the other guy can't kill you. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, like there's enough police shootings out there where a suspect will get lit up and still be able to shoot back at an officer. And I say
And
this because it's the
I'll
ones we
also-
have more on record, but it could be like a civilian needed to defend his house or place of business,
Yeah,
and he decides to go for a leg, and then the other guy blows your fucking
how
brains out.
many times a robbery happens or
Yeah.
a home invasion happens, and the clerk or the homeowner shoots in home defense, and instead of the burglar deciding, the burglar decides, okay, this is too dangerous for me, I need to get out of here, but they've already been hit. They run away. They can get blocks away, and then they die because of blood loss.
Mhm.
Just because you've been hit,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not an instant down.
You're also more likely to survive from a shot to the gut than a shot to the leg.
True.
And
Point being that by deciding to shoot the wound, regardless if you could do it or not, and it's extremely hard to be able to guarantee, it's a fact that it
Yeah.
could cost you. It's gonna cost you your life.
It
You could
very
shoot
well
someone in
could.
the leg, thinking, "Oh, I just want to wound them," and instead of that, the guy shoots you back and kills you.
You should.
has-
if
again,
you're gonna if you're gonna use deadly force,
Yep.
you use deadly force to end the threat against your life.
Correct.
Usually, what that means is your efforts are gonna go towards potential lethal ends. It's
Yep.
not desired, it's not preferred, but if it's a threat against your life, you've got to think of it as you against your life or theirs. Which one's more important? I would hope that your life is more important to you than their life.
Like, I'm going to give you a non-firearm example, which is when you're grapple and you have to use joint locks. A lot of people, especially laymen or recent practitioners, get this idea in their head. Oh, I can just use the pain compliance aspect because joint locks, guess what? When you bend your legs and arms in directions they're not supposed to, they really hurt. In case you don't know that. People think, oh, this is gonna hurt like a son of a bitch, and then because when my instructor does it to me or I do it to my training partner, they tap out and they don't want any of it. I could just do the same thing in a real life altercation and the other guy's gonna give up. No, there's no guarantees that's gonna happen. If you need to in a self-defense situation, what I was taught by my instructors is when it's real, you apply a joint lock, you go until it snaps. You break that limb and you incapacitate the person. There is no, because if you hesitate and you think, oh, I can just keep him controlled by the pain. Bullshit. Could be
You don't
under
know
their
their pain tolerance, for one.
You don't know their flexibility, and the more you train, you realize some people can withstand a lot more leverage than others and be okay.
Some people can feel the exact same pain as someone else and keep going.
Yep. They don't even care. And they will force their way out, squirm out, reverse the situation on you.
Like,
and
and
hurt
then
you.
there's people like my cousin's grandma who, because of a genetic abnormality, didn't feel pain. Like, she had cancer and didn't feel any pain as a result of the cancer.
No,
You don't
this is
know
why
if you're up against
people
someone who
are-
feels pain or not. But you
because
have to
that's why
assume
I'm
that they're
like
not
drunk,
going to.
high. Like, there's a lot of like substances. Jables could speak to this more than I could. It would make
Oh
pain
yeah, it's
tolerance.
tolerance issues.
Yeah, they would make it like they wouldn't feel a goddamn thing. Which is why, again, like relying on pain tolerance as a self-defense method is gambling. You are putting your life in your hands. It's one thing when it's your job.
You're
Yeah,
putting your life in
it's,
someone else's hands.
So
You're
my dad worked for the Department of Corrections,
Yeah.
and he'd put me in wrist locks and stuff like that all the time.
There's a
Looking
problem
back-
though. They're required by law to restrain people, such as hospital orderlies also have to restrain agitated.
Yeah, but I
cops.
also
Yeah.
I also wrestled for 7 years, and so
Mhm.
like I don't like punching people, but I can. choke you out.
I'm not. It's not a big thing for me, but again, like we're talking about the case of like.
I just don't like it. It hurts my hands.
Well, yeah, I agree with you.
I'd rather just choke
but,
you out.
Here's another factor, though. When you're talking about orderlies, chances are in a hospital you're gonna get as many people as you can to restrain them. You're gonna be using 4, 5, 6 people to restrain one individual.
Yeah, because you gotta.
The same thing with
because you have
corrections
to. Well, it's 2 for the arms,
2 for
2
the
for
leg.
the legs, 1 or 2 for the shoulders.
Yeah,
Whereas
you have
you-
at a minimum 4 people.
Yeah.
Hell, I'm gonna bring up another example. Like living in the United States, the fact that, for example, you carry a gun for self-protection, which you didn't pull out in an altercation, that other person tries to get a hold of your weapon. You need
Yeah.
to make sure that you do what you guys like to call gun retention.
Yeah.
Means his hand can't go to your gun.
Well,
Otherwise, you're
it's-
dead.
Yeah, but there's
you-
also
if-
the other factor, like
Yeah,
in our
I wouldn't
society,
rely on.
people-
I wouldn't rely on pain to make sure that happens.
Yeah,
Which
Well,
is why-
here's one of
but
the
there-
hold on. Hold on. Here's the thing. Here's the thing to keep in mind too. Anytime you're talking about a altercation with cops, or you're talking about an altercation where someone was concealed carrying or open carrying, whatever it is, and the other individual is quote unquote unarmed. They don't have a firearm. They don't have a knife.
Yeah.
Well, if a lot of people will say, well, if they're unarmed, you shouldn't shoot them. In that altercation, they have the potential to become armed, even if you pull out the firearm.
Yep.
Because there is always a firearm in the mix. If they can get a hold of your firearm, they are now armed, and you are unarmed. And
you have laws in your.
I have a buddy. I have a buddy that trains special forces, or at least he used to. Yeah, he would do martial art training for special forces and stuff. Taught me a lot of disarms. A cop doesn't know that. A cop doesn't know whether or not I know those disarms. So if they pull a gun, I could take it, or they could shoot me.
There's a lot of things that can go wrong, and you shouldn't be gambling.
Yeah.
That's the point there. Like, people don't understand. Like, again,
yeah, there's other.
So much.
I think that the more important issues are how cops are trained to de-escalate and stuff like that. I think that's more of an important issue than
I will agree
whether or not cops are shooting people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes.
Answer the problem, though. You can't say cops should be better trained and then go, what do you mean you're going to spend money training them?
Yeah.
Like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, for me, that's a bit of like, if you say the United States needs police reform, 100%.
Oh, yeah, my
If you say
dad.
defund the police, I'm going to excuse me, what? You do understand, like, training them, keeping them, like, giving them the tools of, like, social de-escalation. And other aspects costs money, right?
My dad.
You either need to pay them more and require that they go to classes and get certifications in order to keep their job, or you need to provide the training yourself. I would much rather have the latter, because then you know that they're not just getting pencil whipped, or at least that all your cops are getting equal training. That doesn't mean that the department's not pencil whipping stuff.
You know, like, there's a left-wing activist that I sometimes agree with. I'm not going to bring up his name because I don't want to give him, like, really, but
after this we should move on.
Yeah. And he said something that I agree with, which is, like, a lot of people, like, some aspects of law enforcement want to copy the military in terms of, like, available equipment and some tactics, but they also forget, like, special forces spends 30% of their time in training rotation, in getting ready, in learning how to do shit.
Yeah.
And 50% of their time for an operation is intel gathering. So you'd wish the police were more like the military in those two aspects, which is the two aspects they usually don't want to copy. Which is, before they execute a warrant to a suspect's house, they should know everything.
Well,
like, their habits, who's inside the house, who's not, are they actually armed?
Well, Bart, I'll turn you on to a video. There's a guy.
But we should move on.
Yeah.
We should move on, Jables.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Here's the thing.
Like we said, the Second Amendment.
Second. Yeah. Go on.
Like we said, we can make the Second Amendment an entire episode.
Sorry,
at least the length of this one so far.
Yeah, it is a very big rabbit hole.
Yeah, the first two are the most controversial.
Yeah, because they're being attacked. Yeah.
Say a little bit with a little bit is also true with the Fourth and Fifth Amendment and the 10th Amendment. Those are the most controversial ones out of them. But we're moving on to the Third Amendment, which is no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Basically, this one we don't even think about anymore because we don't have military quartered in our houses. We don't have...
Yeah, at this time,
Army.
British military was like,
You know what? This one
hey,
came.
give me a place to sleep.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
had to
you
be okay.
Yeah, you had to provide them with your food and your roof and all that stuff at their request, and by request I mean demand.
By the way, Rimshee, if you showed up at my doorstep, I'd give you sleep.
It's your choice.
Yeah, it's your choice. And we're talking about active duty service members. And I will forgo the standard, I'm not a soldier, I'm a Marine comment, because I know exactly what they're talking about, even if it does irk that part of me a little.
They're talking about military members in general.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, also,
they're talking about military members, but they're saying soldiers.
Because otherwise, a state could just pretty much start imposing on its civilian population.
Yeah.
I have a lot of buddies that have been in the military. I think I have a couple that are still active military. Hey, go ahead, sleep on my couch.
Like the Third Amendment comes out of a very
But
direct.
they're my buddies. Like I'm giving them permission.
Yeah, which is
If some random person showed up at my door,
like, could you imagine
it's
like
like-
a lot of
Can't be
soldiers
demanded.
shows up? Yeah, could you imagine like the governor of your state decides, I need to impose law and order, and so I have to deploy troops. We have nowhere for them to stay. Just take over that block. The soldiers will stay whatever the fuck we want.
But also,
Yeah.
keep in mind that your buddies coming over, they're not being quartered in your house. They're staying over at your place. There is a difference between the government basically requiring you to provide them with quarter and you saying, hey, crash at my place.
yeah, this turned into a bigger
without consent
conversation
of
than
the
I thought
owner.
it would be.
Well, the Third Amendment is an interesting one because it doesn't really apply anymore because we don't think of that as being okay. Because of the Third
it's not
Amendment.
relevant.
Again,
It's
like,
one
if
of
you
the
don't-
only
A little
it's-
bit, yeah.
But
This amendment was important back in the day, but nowadays
because
it's just
real
like,
life
no,
things
this is the
happen.
standard.
Yeah, because there
But
were
part of the
historical
reason
events
why
that led
it's part of the reason why it's not relevant is mostly because of the Fourth Amendment.
Not exactly.
kind.
No, because there's a difference between illegal search and seizure and forcing someone to permit you to sleep in your house. Their house.
Well, no, I'm talking more about the specific phrase "be secure in their house."
Yes, but
evolves
being
from there.
secure, there's a difference between being secure and quartering, and that's why it's two separate amendments. Otherwise, the Third Amendment and the Fourth Amendment would have been rolled into one.
Come from
Yeah.
the same thing against again like
It's
colonial.
same kind of concept, but from two different angles.
It was a lot of the shit the British Crown did to American colonists during the
Yeah.
period. That led to this
Instead of
rela-
paying for inns or building
Yeah.
a barracks or something like that, they'd send over troops, and the troops would be allowed to impose on any good British citizen, whether they were a good British citizen or not.
and people
It's like,
you gotta remember this was
you
a
got a
limit.
nice bed. You got that
Yeah.
Helix mattress. I'm taking
Yeah.
it.
Like, yeah, I'm sleeping in your master bedroom, I'm drinking your wine, I'm eating your food, I'm groping your wife and daughters. Yeah, like, people were like, never again. Fuck this shit. We're never allowing this shit to ever happen to us again. And fortunately, it never did. So it never became, like, a big deal, like you guys are saying. But when it came about, when this was written, a lot of people felt really strongly about it.
Yeah, I don't want my 13-year-old to be fucked by a British soldier. That's
Oh,
pretty much
God.
what this law is.
Sure. I mean,
You're
it
just
could be
spewing
more like,
all the
they're gonna
controversial
drink,
shit
they're gonna
today,
drink,
aren't you, Jables?
just gonna
What?
drink up.
You're just spewing all the controversial shit.
I know.
Yeah,
That's,
what a-
that's
All
what
right,
I
let's
do.
move on to the
I'm
Fourth
exercising
Amendment.
my First Amendment rights right now. And
Moving on to the Fourth Amendment before Jables comes up with something worse. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Yeah, I think like
This is why stop and frisk is unconstitutional. This amendment right here.
And a lot of warrants have been playing fast and loose with this.
FISA warrants are a prime example of just rubber stamping the warrant. There may be no probable cause, there may be absolute probable cause, but the person signing the warrant doesn't fucking know, doesn't fucking care, because it's a hidden warrant. It's not visible to the public. It's not known, and they can just rubber stamp that shit.
There was a guy who was a member of the DEA, and he was in Texas, and somebody had gotten wrongfully arrested for possession of drugs that were planted, and so he set up this whole house to look like a drug house, but he was just growing Christmas trees. And the cops just busted in because they just got like a rubber stamp warrant because they falsified, like they got a direct tip from somebody. Like, no, not growing weed, just Christmas trees. And he hung signs on all the walls like, "Gotcha, you're on camera."
I mean, you could say like what the DEA also did in California when they were raiding dispensaries.
Yeah.
I forget what county it is, but there's this county that when this armored car would drive through, they'd stop the armored cars and do civil asset forfeiture, which also violates the Fourth Amendment.
Oh yeah,
and they would specifically be
cash because you have too much cash to be driving.
They'd confiscate the cash because it came from a dispensary.
Yeah, that's robbery right there.
And then they'd turn it over to the federal government, get something like a 10% kickback from what they turned over.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, civil asset forfeiture is bullshit, and that violates the Fourth Amendment. And yet, way too many counties, way too many sheriffs, way too many police are able to get away with it because it's in the state law, it's in the county law that they can do it. And they will always be...
It's also... If they don't log it, it never existed. It's cash.
Yeah.
Well, quite often... It's not that. It depends on the location. Like, some locations, you have to provide a receipt for it.
No, there were a bunch of cops in Baltimore that just got...
I know. I'm saying some locations.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like, people... it goes without saying, even though these are constitutional rights, there are infringements happening every fucking day, as with any other law. Just because people aren't following this doesn't mean it's not a valid right that you have. It's just that people are being assholes to break the rules.
I think we should pay cops better, because then they'd be less likely to steal from people. And things like
somewhat, yeah. For sure. That's one of the reasons. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, for sure. Like, not paying people enough is obviously a direct route to corruption.
Yeah.
Ah, God. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna have to go.
Oh, we're just gonna finish these up. We've got 6 more minutes, and then we're gonna close out.
Well,
if I don't manage to come back...
Should we just end on the Fifth Amendment?
Yeah, we'll end halfway through the Bill of Rights. We'll finish the Bill of Rights and the rest of the amendments after, or on another episode.
Okay.
Alright, so we'll go with the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, or unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person... Oh, you know what? This specifically denotes a difference between the Army, National Guard, and Navy, and the militia.
Yeah.
So that goes back to the Second Amendment. Right there. You can't say shit. Get fucked. Anyway, nor
or
shall
you can just
any
read through
person...
James Adams' letters that specifically say what he meant. You know.
Nor shall any person be subject, for the same offense, to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. That's where we get the term double jeopardy. Mm-hmm. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So actually, Fourth and Fifth Amendments are violated by civil asset forfeiture.
Yeah. And also, this is the amendment of you don't have to talk to the cops.
Yeah.
Just don't. Spend a night in jail if you have to. Like,
people will say my Fifth Amendment right, but it's really just your right to remain silent.
Yeah. Which is also a First Amendment.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, don't talk to cops. Always.
They could be the best guys in the world. They can want to help you. They can honestly be on your side.
They can also lie and seem like they're on your side.
Yeah, and, they could be on your side, but anything you can say or do, or anything you say or do, can be used against you for
what was it, Miranda versus
Yeah, it was the Miranda rights.
Yeah, they're now known as the Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right.
Well, they're colloquially known as Miranda rights.
Yeah. You have the right
There's
to
no
remain
official
silent.
Miranda
Anything
rights.
you say
It's just
can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Oh man, I'm forgetting the Miranda rights. They've been read to me so many times.
Not recently.
Yeah, no, I've been a good boy for the last 10 years.
Why do I not trust that statement?
I've had... The only interaction I've had with cops in the last 10 years was
No, you said you've been a good boy. There's a difference.
Oh, the good boy thing? Yeah. Okay.
I don't doubt that you haven't had any negative interaction with cops. Anyway, we'll end it here.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and end it here. We'll
if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. Oh, okay. That's I forgot the last line. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. Do you understand your rights as I have read them to you? That was the last one.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to answer for it to be valid.
Yeah, just them saying it, even if you're deaf, that's kind of more police corruption type shit.
Yeah, but if you're deaf, that's a little messed up.
Yeah.
But if you're deaf, you're probably going to be sitting there going, I'm not saying anything because you've got my hands in cuffs and I can't talk anyway.
One really good green flag to know whether or not you're dealing with a good cop is if he literally pulls out the Miranda rights and literally reads them to you. That's a green flag that you're dealing with somebody that does everything by the book and is going to be a good guy.
Or at least not. He's not gonna intentionally try and fuck you.
Yeah.
It's not a guarantee, but it's a good sign.
Yeah,
Anyway,
just a heads up
we
for you,
should
Red,
probably end
when
it
you get
here, right?
arrested
We've been-
in the U.S.
Fuck, we've been going for almost 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got something to do at 3, so...
Yeah. Alright, let's go ahead and do an outro and...
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us. We'll probably cover the rest of them.
We'll sort
some
out
point.
a time. Maybe
Yeah,
it might
yeah.
be next month or something like that.
Yeah, but tune in on
Tomorrow-
Friday for the fun show.
Tomorrow we are doing Outlaw Star in the community server in View Party.
Yes.
11 o'clock Pacific time, same time this started.
Yeah. So, yeah, come and join us for that. We might figure out a date where we go through the rest of the amendments. Or
Well,
we might...
will figure out a date, and then we might, and then we'll probably do specific amendments based on our stuff over time. So this is probably going to be a short, maybe 10 thing series at most. I like to say at most. But
Yeah,
I also know that
I'm
that's
surprised how
potentially
much
false.
we talked about the Third Amendment.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, people can't sleep on your couch whenever they want. Okay. Anyways, thank you everybody for joining us. Come back on Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitch. And join us for watching Outlaw Star tomorrow in the community Discord, link in the description. I don't know what else to say. Close it out.